Time for TWiT, episode 294. Xeni Jardin is here. Marshall Kirkpatrick from Read Write Web. And Baratunde Thurston to talk about the latest tech news, including information from Japan about the nuclear reactors. We'll talk about the CTIA, the latest cell phone news, and a whole lot more. TWiT is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by Winamp for Android, the ultimate media player for your desktop and Android device, featuring wireless sync. Download it free at winamp.com/Android. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com. This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 294, recorded March 27th, 2011. As Kanye says, SABAM! This Week in Tech is brought to you by FreshBooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look more professional. Get started with a free package at freshbooks.com. And by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum Plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/twit2. And don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter. User ID audible_com. And by Carbonite. Backing up the files on your PC or Mac is safe and easy with Carbonite. For a free trial plus 2 free months with purchase, go to carbonite.com. Offer code TWiT. It's time for TWiT, the show that covers the computer and technology news. I shouldn't even say computer. I don't think we have one computer story in here, ever. Technology news, I guess. Joining me now, a great panel. We've had some great panels the last few weeks, and I credit our producer, Eileen Rivera, for putting these together, starting with, from Read Write Web, Marshall Kirkpatrick. Hello, Marshall.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. This is going to be a challenging pronunciation job all round. Read Write Web. Then from Boing Boing, I can say that, Xeni Jardin. Did I get your name right?
You got it perfectly.
All right.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, it's great to have you back. She's drinking matcha today, so she said if she gets a green mustache, we'll tell her. It's okay. It's okay to have a green mustache. And the author of a book which is soon to come out in the next few months, How to Be Rebecca Black. It's Baratunde Thurston. Am I right?
You're wrong on so many levels, but it's so much fun.
It's not too late.
I'm not going to correct anything. That was an amazing introduction.
Also from The Onion. What, don't you want to kind of change it now and say How to Be Rebecca Black? Wouldn't that sell better?
I have a thing called artistic integrity, Leo.
Oh, dear.
And I'm not going to put that on some... Oh, dear. No, I'm not going to change the title of my book. It'll be out in the future. That's all I'm committing to. And when it's out, you'll definitely know.
I can't wait. I do feel like Jerry Lewis that we should have a talk board here and say, let's roll the numbers. 58 million hits now for Friday.
Well, there was one comment that I saw on the video today. It was great. It said, we have collectively spent 412 years watching this video.
Oh dear. That's a commentary. Not to mention, I mean, if you tallied up all the hits for the... I mean, some of the parodies. There's one parody, the Bob Dylan parody, I think, has 1.7 million views.
Nice.
So you tally them all up, it really is the entire collective consciousness of America has been devoted to this 13-year-old's song for the last 2 weeks.
All of Shakespeare's monkeys banging out on the kitchen.
And that's what you get. That's
so
what you get.
Clay Shirky says it used to be Jen, then it was Desperate Housewives, and now the internet's supposed to open us up to Wikipedia edits, right? That's what we're supposed to spend our time on?
Everybody's coming, baby! And this is what they do. They make so it was a bat mitzvah video that went wrong, very wrong. And people have, I mean, she was on Leno. She seems like a very nice 13-year-old girl who just got caught in the internet meme machine and is being ground up by the gears right now. It's just amazing.
Better that than you done goofed.
Yeah. It could be worse. You're right. Sort of. There are real stories. In fact, Xeni, you've been covering the nuclear disaster in Japan. And one of the things I've noted before is how hard it is to get real information about this. I mean, the Japanese government's not being very helpful here, but everybody seems to have an axe to grind. What's the latest from Fukushima?
Well, One of the things that we've been doing, Maggie Kurth-Baker, Boing Boing science editor, and I have been teaming up on this. And, when stories this big and this science-focused happen, we feel like Boing Boing is a special venue where we're able to explore those things without having to apologize for being technically specific and for taking time to talk to scientists, to talk to experts. Maggie's done an amazing job with sorting through that data and being skeptical of sources and helping our readers, our viewers, sort through what's true, what's spin, and frankly, doing the job that cable news networks ought to be doing a better job of. Just over the weekend, there was this report that came out from TEPCO saying, well, radioactivity levels are 10 million times what's normal in this one reactor building. And then the following morning, Los Angeles time, they retracted that statement and said, well, actually, we meant 100,000 times. It's really interesting, the level of the lack of transparency in any story involving large power companies, large energy companies. That's something that we've grown to expect. The BP disaster taught us that. But between the government of Japan and TEPCO and all the sort of fear-mongering that's happening, this is a really, really tough story to get your head around.
Have you reached some sort of consensus in doing all of this research?
Don't trust energy companies and don't trust the government.
Another meme that's been going around is that giant cube of how many people have died from coal, and then the little teeny-weeny cube of how many people have died from nuclear power.
And I think the third lesson is don't necessarily trust science, because science, too, is not necessarily objective. An engineer with an axe to grind, maybe somebody at a university somewhere who's received lots of funding from the nuclear industry, may really have strong motivation, financial motivation, to downplay the risk of radioactivity, to downplay the potential disaster that is still unfolding here. But on the other hand, you have people freaking out and buying iodine tablets on the other side of the world, and perhaps even impacting the supply for people in Japan who will need them first.
There's also the issue, and I've read some blog posts on this, of aid groups raising considerable amount of money to aid Japan, when in fact Japan doesn't really want any help or need any help. What have you learned about that?
We've been doing a series of webcasts with people inside Japan, bloggers and journalists who we know and pay a lot of attention to just generally. And what we're hearing is that, yes, absolutely, there is help acutely needed in the northern part of the country. The numbers of dead and missing are growing by the day. This is a disaster of unprecedented proportions. And remember here, we're just talking about people so far who were harmed by the quake and the tsunami. We don't know what could unfold yet with the nuclear crisis. But what we're hearing is that, you have to remember that just sort of throwing money at really large global aid organizations doesn't necessarily get help on the ground right there where it's needed right now. And it's a little bit more complicated than one might imagine.
Yeah. I mean, this is not a poor country. This is not Haiti.
It's not Haiti. Yeah.
Right. One of the, I've got some friends who live in Tokyo. Actually, when I was there a year and a half ago for the Discovery Science Future Show, I spent a good amount of time with them. So I've been watching her Facebook status updates. And what they're doing a lot of local organization. It's not about raising money, but they're building hygiene kits is one thing that I just wouldn't have thought of, because I've never been in such a drastic situation. So they're asking people in the region send Ziploc bags. They're putting together, towels, toothbrush, toothpaste, because there's so many people who've been displaced. And that's a very meaningful contribution. The other thought that I have, and I've not been following this as closely as is possible because there's so much stuff blowing up around the world, but I saw this in the chat room, and kind of as a joke, but Japan does love its robots, and if there were ever a time for robots to do what they've been designed to do, this is it. Come on, robots, do your thing.
They've been doing some robotic stuff, I know, both in the nuclear plants, but also in search and rescue as well.
Yeah. I would just add, too, one of the things that we've observed as Maggie and I have been comparing notes and sort of trading links back and forth and trying to sort through what's really happening and what to report to our readers. A lot of what the story has taught us is that the really large news organizations, the large news organizations here in the U.S., do wildly varying jobs of telling it like it is. And I just have to be blunt here. Watching CNN domestic, CNN US, it's just been utterly pathetic. When there was major news breaking, they were running stories that had been debunked 9 hours after they debunked and ran on Twitter, ran on Japanese news. I spent a lot of time monitoring TEPCO and press conferences from TEPCO, from the Japan Nuclear Safety Administration, from other entities in Japan. There were these links that were being traded around where on Ustream you could watch sort of an array of 6 different television channels, from the BBC to NHK to Kyoto News, monitoring that with English translations, monitoring the print Japanese language news, monitoring Twitter feeds. That turned out for me and for Maggie, I think, to be some of the best sources of news. And then just reaching out to people who are there, or reaching out to nuclear scientists who could help us parse what was happening. This is such a science story, and science in media in America is just, it's pathetic. It's been abandoned in favor of Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, it really is a shame. But good, that there are outlets like Boing Boing who are willing to focus on that. Well, I feel like that was kind of our mission, too. We have a technologically literate audience. Yeah. I don't think we did as good a job as we would like to, and it's something that we're going to really focus on, is building a better news division so we can cover this kind of stuff from a technically literate point of view and assume an audience that is intelligent. So they can get
and Leo, as KANYE says, it's a process.
It is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wanted to know if you guys had seen this other story out of Japan on Badass of the Week. It's a website that celebrates badass human beings doing badass things. And it's about this guy who, got separated from his wife right after the tsunami, got a bunch of scuba gear and waterproof lighting, and went back in underwater, searching through his flooded town, found his wife like in their apartment, just barely breathing.
Amazing.
Brought her back to safety, then went back and got his mother doing the same thing. And now he just keeps going back day in and day out.
It's amazing.
It's like Japanese MacGyver, hero character. It kind of, there was that, and then there was one comment from a nuclear someone who worked at one of the facilities saying, I'm willing to die to prevent a meltdown. And it just makes it one of those comments like, if you hate your job right now, you really need to keep that to yourself. Yeah. Because these are people going through some serious stuff.
You guys know Joey Ito, I'm sure. His sister, Mizuko Ito, Mimi Ito, she's a cultural anthropologist based here in LA. She does a lot of work on youth and mobile devices. Fascinating woman. She and I were trading emails about this series of reports coming out of Japan in Mainichi, in Asahi, in Kyoto News, where over the weekend, just this weekend, you're starting to see this sort of swell of criticism and anger for the lack of security measures, the lack of safety measures and monitoring for the so-called Fukushima 50 or 100, for the workers who are inside the plant doing the heroic and horrifying job of trying to keep this from turning into an exponentially worse disaster. They're literally putting their lives on the line, and there's great criticism that TEPCO has a long history of lying about safety measures and faulty safety measures for their workers. This is, I think, the most poignant example of this. There's one report where a doctor who, in a previous nuclear disaster in Japan, had treated a lot of radiation victims. He came out very, very critical of TEPCO, critical of the government, but specifically of TEPCO for not monitoring these guys constantly and not providing better safety. Hours later, after that criticism was published in a big report, it was taken out. Mimi found that. She pointed us to it. She helped us translate it. Small steps like that in outlets like Boing Boing that reach a wide audience here in the States, I think, are very helpful in helping to provide context and seeing sort of what the sentiment on the ground is like over there.
I think that it really may, we say this every time, but every time you get more and more of a sense that the mainstream traditional news sources are not very useful, and that there is but there is something to replace it. which is really kind of exciting. And that if people do have the interest, they can get all this information, and you can watch NHK on Ustream, and you can watch Al Jazeera, and you can you can go to Twitter, and you can find out people like A. Carvin, his coverage of not just Japan, but of what's going on in Arab nations.
Andy Carvin's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
He needs a raise and a Pulitzer.
You just wrote, Marshall Kirkpatrick was at the CTIA this week. You wrote an article for Read Write Web. Whoop, I lost your picture. There we go, Marshall. Here's the article for Read Write Web. Rights Watchdog says mobile web would have changed Nazi Germany. And it's interesting to kind of reimagine what history would have been like, and how it may never again you may be able to get away with that kind of thing because of the harsh light of the internet. Can you tell us what he said?
Oh, it was the director of Human Rights Watch, Kenneth Roth, and he was discussing the way that so many atrocities have been hidden from the world throughout history, and yet now, today, thanks to wireless and mobile technologies, he's able to have people on his staff and stringers from the general public communicating live from some of the most repressive situations in the world. Despite government efforts to shut down those communication channels, they're just unable to, and that really, really changes things.
Of course, there's the flip side of it, which is that there is so much going on that our attention is now moving very, very quickly. I mean, not only is the news cycle instantaneous, but our attention span has gotten shorter and shorter. So, Japan, that was 3 weeks ago.
Right. Or Haiti, that was a year ago.
Yeah. Or Haiti, that was a year ago.
Kind of memory.
Yeah.
I got a quick technical need, Leo. I'm going to reboot my Skype. It's taking up like 100% processor, and you guys are all sounding like Cylons, but even though I'm sure you don't, right? You're not really Cylons.
Take care. We are Cylons.
Can you call me back when I boot back up? Thank you.
Yes, I will. We have a plan.
As Kanye says, it's a processor.
I hope you say that every 10 minutes.
It's a processor.
I think we got the title of the show. No, but it has to include as Kanye says.
As Kanye says.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right, Baratunde. Yeah, we'll get you right back in just a minute. Let's take a break. We're going to come back, get Baratunde back on, and talk a little bit more about CTIA, because there was some. I know it almost feels dumb to talk about gadgets after you talk about these serious world issues, but there's stuff going on there.
Gadgets are part of how we communicate about these serious world issues.
That's right. It's all it's a tool, as Kanye says. But if Kanye were here right now, I'm sure he'd be saying, whenever I send invoices, I send them from FreshBooks.com. It's easy. Online invoice. Actually, we're big fans of FreshBooks. When if you are invoicing people, you know that it's actually one of the most painful things in the world is to do invoices. FreshBooks will turn you around. You will love invoicing. You upload your logo. FreshBooks lets you do it on the web. There's an iPhone app that will actually track your hours if you do hourly billing, and will port it right into an invoice there. You got to love that. It's free for the first 3 clients. You have to love that. And if you have clients, and I know there are a few out there who say, well, I appreciate the email invoice, but can you please mail me a paper invoice? They'll even do that for you. Not free. You have to pay for the postage. It's a small fee. But they literally will print the invoice, stamp it, and mail it for you. Now, here's the part I like the best. They put a button on that email that says pay right now, or you can even have your client schedule regular payments. Believe it or not, a lot of clients like the idea of just saying, oh, yeah, as soon as I get an invoice from this guy, pay him, and it'll happen automatically. They can use a credit card. They can use up to 11 online payment services like PayPal, Authorize.net, Tuco, and on and on and on. If they don't pay, late payment reminders are automatic as well. You couldn't get easier than this. If you're a freelancer, if you've got to invoice, please do yourself a favor and check out FreshBooks. It's free. FreshBooks.com. Over 2 million folks have started using FreshBooks since I started in 2004. It's really grown, and it is just fantastic. Every day, by the way, FreshBooks is giving away a birthday cake to one of our audience members. Doesn't even have to be your birthday. Just sign up for FreshBooks, and a cake could be on its way. All right, let me see if I can get Baratunde back here. You think he's had time to reboot? One never knows.
Depends on the boot.
Depends on the processor. Have a little matcha on me. We'll see. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I raise my mug to you.
That's a massive mug. What is it? What is that mug? Oh, it's pretty. It's like a Japanese mug, huh?
Traditional Japanese mug, or as I call it, my tea trough.
All right, everybody's hydrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me ask Marshall, what was, you were at CTIA, which is the big cell phone conference this year. What was anything you came away with of interest?
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
I need to remember to smile when I say things like that. It was remarkably well run. The content on stage I thought was really engaging.
Aren't these guys at each other's throats at this point, though? I mean, the T-Mobile acquisition and.
Oh yeah, it was great. Jim Cramer got on stage and interviewed the CEOs of Verizon, Sprint, and AT&T, and talked about the T-Mobile acquisition, and the Sprint CEO just came out swinging.
Oh boy,
which was great. And then Cramer said, "So why does the video stream always stop working on my iPad? I've got all three of you here to, who's going to fix it?" And I thought that was refreshingly frank. And it was quite enjoyable. One of my primary areas of interest in that world is about web-connected devices, about sensors being put all over the place in what's called the Internet of Things. And that just kept coming up over and over again.
Come on. They can't even get us enough bandwidth for our phones. Now they want our refrigerators to be online?
That's a big part of, They say that that's why they need all the more spectrum.
Marshall, did at any point when Cramer was hosting this conversation, I assume there was a camera on a jib constantly moving nauseating the audience? How
You're wrong!
Yeah.
Oh, he was terrific. He was super professional.
Actually, that's the kind of guy you should get for something like this, because otherwise, these guys are mealy-mouthed, these executives. You have to get somebody to sit down and start yelling at them, or they're not going to say anything at all. Did they talk about Spectrum? Because I guess that's the issue
constantly.
Right now.
Yeah. CTIA is not some neutral host for a nice little industry conference. It's an advocacy organization, and Spectrum. We want the federal government to intervene and give us more spectrum. Was the drum they just kept beating over and over and over again.
FCC Chairman Julius Janikowski was there as well, and I understand he's talked about Spectrum.
Oh yeah, yep. I can only assume there's going to be a major reallocation sometime real soon.
They're talking about 500 megahertz of wireless spectrum that will be, they hope, available in the next 10 years.
Well, the demand is just
too much time.
Already climbing so fast, and it's just going to climb faster, especially if some of the predictions that people are making come true. The CEO of Ericsson said there are, what did he say? I believe there are 4 billion mobile subscribers around the world today, and they expect there to be 50 billion mobile devices above and beyond human subscribers, but multiple phones per person and sensors all over the place. And it's, if they can pull that off, it's going to require.
It's interesting because, I mean, they're building in higher, 4G into all the new phones. They're higher and higher speed. We want more speed, but it seems like the infrastructure is woefully behind. I mean, anybody who has AT&T and an iPhone is suffering.
Hopefully we'll find a way. I mean, we hit these new levels of supply and demand and how they work out, and we discover whole new ways to get things done. Like, not until all of your friends have mobile phones does your social use of mobile technology take this exponential leap. And so when all of our devices are also connected, we'll hit a new way of generating, bandwidth demand, hopefully on the networking side, and the network planners at these companies and within the policy wing of the government will also hit some new level of supply that can match the demand that's being created by this unanticipated kind of network effect on top of a network. It's a fun and hard challenge. The other day, I wanted my oven to be connected just because, no, it was a very legitimate thing. We had the daylight savings or whatever the thing, and I have to set the clock twice a year. That's a machine should do that.
It is a pain. We're so spoiled now.
I was not put on this earth to set a digital clock. A digital controller can do that.
My car knew what time it was. My phones, my computer, everything knew what time it was, except
my oven.
For our oven.
Opting out. That's not cool. Fall in line, oven. Fall in line.
This public venue may not be the most graceful way for me to bring up this issue with you, but I need to get it off my chest.
No, I think it's about time, Xeni. I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you to bring this up. Go ahead.
My refrigerator is deeply offended that your microwave has not accepted its Facebook friend request. And the toaster is heartbroken that you're not following it on Twitter. So
here's the thing, Xeni. Speaking as a representative of my microwave, I have to say, like, we had some challenging situations in the past where my microwave became friends with a lot of other devices across the world, and
it's complicated.
This device.
It's complicated.
On its task of heating my food, and was trying to get on these lists and wanted to be retweeted, and it just got very ugly. So I decided, as an executive decision, no friends outside the home. Not until you prove that you can handle my needs. Could it start talking to your devices?
Of course, once a refrigerator is 13 years old or older, it's okay.
Well, I would give it an account on Bebo to start, but I'm not going to go put my fridge on Facebook. It's too much. 500 million people is way too much trouble.
It's 600 million people, but people don't really realize that it's also 200 million appliances.
Yeah. So,
and I think that's something Mark's.
You laugh, and it's great. It's funny. I got to do an interview with one of the most respected analysts in the field, a guy named Chetan Sharma, whose research was cited in the opening keynote, et cetera, and he dropped a mention of sensors in cereal boxes. And I said, now why on earth would I want a network-connected cereal box? And he said, well, you could share things, you could do social stuff, nutritional information, but the cereal company wants to know when the box is almost empty so they can prompt you online to order some direct from them and cut out the whole retail middleman.
Peapod was ahead of its time.
Still, and diapers.com now represents a huge percentage of all the diapers bought and sold in the world.
You're kidding.
No.
People buy diapers online? This is like a big thing?
Why wouldn't they? It's huge.
Oh, yeah. Amazon is
seems like you just go to the store, they got a shelf full, and you have them, and now they're yours. And
wait a minute. Is Leo Laporte the Don of digital?
Yeah, but
suggesting that
not
people
the Don
not
of diapers,
conduct an
guys.
online transaction, but instead go to their corner store and pick something physical up off the shelf?
You want to know the truth? Now, this was a long time ago because my kids are now teenagers, but we had a truck come and deliver cloth diapers when they were little.
And how does your milk arrive at your home, Leo? Is there also a
oh man, don't you miss the milkman? Or are you all too young? You all are too young to remember the milkman. That was awesome.
It was called the grocery store.
No, there was a guy. They would come around. He'd have a little truck. He'd have a little. You'd hear. You know it was morning because you'd hear the tinkle tinkle of the bottles as the milkman walked up the drive and left milk for you in a box. They're not. I have Australians in the studio. Is Australia? They still have milkmen? See, they still have milkmen in Canberra.
Well, yeah, but they also have really bad broadband.
That's true.
I
don't have a choice.
There, I had a great time, but the infrastructure for internet there is not robust, shall we say.
Blame the government.
This connected device thing is really interesting to me. I worked on a project back when I had my corporate consulting days trying to think about some of these applications. If you could imagine, before you leave your home, getting the most informed, commuting traffic report possible, not based on a helicopter or traffic lights or some sort of AM, FM, signal radio system, but rather from every human being. No, not just every car, every cell phone, every cyclist, whatever path.
They know that information because I've got a GPS. That information's there. I mean, every cell phone company knows exactly how fast I'm going down the highway right now.
Exactly. So there's a business model in it. There's information in it. There's massive privacy violations waiting to be exploited. So let's just jump in and have fun, guys.
I was going to say, all this talk of self-monitoring cereal boxes makes me think of the fact that now is a great time to donate to the EFF again. I mean,
there you go.
Remember, like when 9/11 happened, we started hearing these reports about how Homeland Security was looking at who bought falafel and hummus. I don't know. The
but
idea
you know what,
of
Xeni?
greater surveillance always, it takes a while for social norms to develop and for the civil liberties questions to first be asked and then to be sorted out. So it's interesting.
You got a collision here, though, because you got, as Marshall said, this CEO of Ericsson saying, there'll be 50 billion connected non-phone devices in the next 10 years. And I think there's going to be a strong case for a cereal box that's connected and all of that stuff, and cars that are connected. And
I just
think
want mine encrypted. That's all
I understand.
I'm
I understand, but that's counter to, because if you encrypt yours, then I don't have your traffic information.
Well, maybe I don't want you to have it.
Well, but I think that's what is a big
Maybe,
collision.
or maybe there's an anonymized version that doesn't say that I'm in the car.
Maybe, but I think in the long run, it's too much
I want to
trouble.
know what Xeni cereal box has to hide. Like, what's going on there?
The fact that it's
If your
actually
cereal box
30
isn't doing
pebbles.
anything illegal, it should have no problem.
As
sharing
Eric
its
Schmidt
location.
said, that's right. If your cereal box is not breaking any laws,
Yeah.
it shouldn't, you know.
Well, unfortunately, we've already had more conversation about privacy concerns regarding the Internet of Things than almost any other media outlet I've seen yet, and it's going to be a hugely disruptive social change. So I agree completely that conversation's got to happen.
You guys don't think the horse has left the barn? It's too late.
The horse has left the barn, but it has an electronic tag on its barn.
So we know where it's going.
Yeah.
I just feel like that this conversation, as important as it is it's over now, because everybody's going to want the benefits of all this stuff, and it's only a handful. We're going to be crusty old codgers going, I want my privacy.
Well,
and
here's what's
Credit card information.
What if you thought about it this way? With all this, we talked about, I missed some of the discussion about what might have happened in Nazi Germany if there were some of these connected tools. But if you are a horrific, occasionally quirky, mostly badass, bad dictator person or regime, and you want to know where people are gathering, and before they even know where they're gathering, you pull all that data, you see where all the mobile phones are headed as nodes in your little network, and you preempt their ability to gather, and you section them off from one another. You prevent that ability to come together as a mass group and feed off of their own energy, and perhaps prevent your own overthrow. Even though those tools can be used against you, they can also be used against the people trying to use them against you. So.
Forget the dictators. There were 8 million PED register warrants in the U.S. in 2007 alone. I mean, this is happening right now. If you're in law enforcement, Sprint has a portal for you. You just go there and say, where was Baratunde on Tuesday? In fact, email me where Baratunde was. I hear he's at playgrounds a lot. Email me from now on, just tell me every 5 minutes where Baratunde is. You don't even need a court order to do that. It's not this is weird, but your GPS location is currently not considered information. It's not content. So they don't need a warrant to get it.
I need to clarify this playground thing, because you're throwing things out there.
It was the in-joke.
It was a softball tournament.
For those of you listening live, for those of you who are going to hear this Tuesday afternoon, I checked into Union Square, a public venue in New York City full of adults and reasonable activities like buying squash, and there happens to be a playground there, and I checked into the square so many times that Foursquare gave me this playground badge.
He's the mayor.
I was never the mayor. I was Mayor Delicatessen. I was actually, I've been nominated for Foursquare Mayor of the Year.
What?
For Shorty Award. Yeah.
For just because you should be the mayor of everywhere.
Well, no, because I had a campaign last year. My friend Jennifer McNulty and I decided to take Foursquare mayorship as a legitimate political activity.
Yes, absolutely.
So we had a 30-day period, and we set rules. You had to be physically present to check in. We made up drinks and put them on the menu. That was her innovation. I held a rally across the street in support of my campaign and the beliefs that my team brought to the table. We had an inauguration when she ousted me. It was a beautiful affair.
No, look, we just segued from talking about privacy to a guy who wants to tell everybody exactly where he is as often as possible so he can be the mayor of the world.
Slow down. So
is there a conflict?
You've added a couple of things that I didn't say. So I don't share everywhere I am with everyone all the time.
You want control of it.
Every one of those is moderated. I share my location occasionally with certain audiences, certain times, and to a certain level of specificity. So that level of control is something that's part of my personal data management, which I think we're all going to have to start dealing with, just like you do with your financial management, your food and clothing and housing, which your data management is going to be a part of your life. It should be.
That's okay. That's a great distinction. So it's an opt-in.
It's an opt-in, but it's more than an opt-in. It's an opt-in with sort of your ability to shape, what amount and through what outlets and at what frequency this information, though not content legally, but should be considered content about you, is able to be released. I think that's got to be a part of this connected network of things and people interacting with things. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot more horrific and embarrassing incidents to come, and we might not get over it.
So it sounds like there's a few things that any privacy manifesto would demand. One is that you have choice of how your data is used. The other is you can demand it be either withheld or anonymized, effectively anonymized.
Right.
Although we've learned that anonymization isn't very effective, because whenever search engine results are handed out, people immediately... What was it, AOL that gave the data set, or no, it was Ask.com, gave a data set to researchers, and a reporter in Florida took the data set and said, oh yeah, that's that lady. They found her. And the completely anonymized data set. So I don't know. I feel like most people will have given up by the time your cereal box has an internet connection. It will just be, what are we going to do?
You know, I might predict that there will be a backlash, that there will be sort of another round of growing concern about what all of that means and what that means for identity, what that means for culture. I'm hearing more and more, like here in LA, I met a filmmaker a couple weeks ago who was involved in a big, important, award-winning documentary, and she said that the next project that the same team was working on was about privacy, digital privacy. I mean, obviously at Boing Boing with Corey on board and with all of the reporting that we do about civil liberties and what these issues mean for human rights workers, for activists in other countries, it's something that we care a lot about.
Right.
I mean, I remember seeing some tweets just last night with people like Jake Applebaum, one of the volunteers with the Tor Project and WikiLeaks, who was saying, if you're in Syria, you have to know that if you're connecting to the internet with Firefox, if you're doing this, if you're doing that, your government is monitoring all of this traffic. And some of the tools that are put out there to help people, you know, it's more complicated than just downloading a tool.
Right.
So
One of the
oh,
sorry, go ahead, Marshall.
The flip side of this is that hopefully when more and more of this data is made quantifiable and accessible, it can be made accessible in a way that can also be leveraged for social justice and to illuminate things that are unfair and more rationally planned allocation of resources, stuff like that. The example that I had used historically is about real estate redlining, where when the U.S. Census data and the bank home loan application data were both first available for computational analysis, people were able to cross-reference those data sets and demonstrate that there was a pattern of discrimination against African-American families in home loan applications across major cities all around the United States. So I think that there's probably going to be really big opportunities of comparable importance when we have this living census of our devices and our social network data and what have you, able to be cross-referenced with other data sets.
Dude, I love the phrase living census. That's a great concept.
Yeah.
Hashtag it up.
Yeah. One other story from CTIA, then we'll move on. It didn't take long for Google to jump ship since AT&T is acquiring T-Mobile. From T-Mobile to Sprint, they announced the next Google phone will be a Sprint phone. And Sprint announced that they were going to use Google Voice for their messaging, which I think is great news. Anything to say about that, Marshall?
You know, to be honest, I have never really gotten into Google Voice.
Oh, I love it.
What?
I need someone to explain to me why maybe it's because I'm privileged to have gotten grandfathered into unlimited data on my iPhone back from the old days, but it just doesn't do much for me.
Do you like Google Voice, Baratunde? Do you like the Google Voice?
I not only like Google Voice, I love Google Voice. It has enhanced the quality of my life. I do not work for Google Voice, but I'll tell you, first of all, the head of Google Voice is a guy named Vincent Paquette, which I like to pronounce Packet, which I think is cool. They should have a telecom service. Your last name is Packet, so I'm already supportive. I was using Google Voice from the days it was Grand Central, and back in, I think, 2006, and the idea of having more control. Again, we're getting back to this issue of micro-controlling your digital existence, to be able to give out a number, to have some redundancy to your numeric identity in the world. So if I give out a cell phone number that's tied to a network and a device, I lose that device. It's very hard for me to pick up messaging attached to that device without getting a new device from that same carrier. Hopefully they're open, maybe it happens at 4 in the morning, I'm out of luck. Especially with text messaging, those don't forward. You know, text messaging goes into a black hole. You hope it gets through, essentially, but unlike a voicemail or a call, you can't reroute that. So the benefits for me of Google Voice, you know, routing the phone to other phones is great. Being able to make calls from my computer has saved a lot of minutes because I'm usually on a fast internet connection. I'd rather use the IP connection than telephony connection. But the text messaging, being able to search my text messages over time, being able to send messages from a computer, and if I'm traveling, which I do increasingly, being able to log in, read, and respond to text without necessarily activating my phone, or if my phone is not available, hugely valuable in a way that I never anticipated. I thought the phone routing was going to be the thing. Turns out for me, it's the online multi-platform access to my SMS log and my contacts that's been such a savior.
I just read a great blog post about not having a phone at all. Like, just don't even have a phone. Make people like
Make people find you?
no, just say, I'll talk to you. You schedule a time. I'll have Skype running or something, but I don't have a phone. I like that idea. He said it's surprisingly liberating, and people think you're like, you got balls because you had to say, I don't have a phone.
It sounds like one of those 4-hour work week hacks.
It is.
I'm
It sounds exactly
I'm only going
like
to respond to your email between 2 and 3 p.m. GMT.
Admit it.
For
You would love to do that.
I would, but I fear that I would miss some little bits of plankton.
No fear. That's the point. No fear. Just
I think fear is something that keeps you rooted in reality sometimes, and I know that I do need to be more connected than that would allow. Maybe for the guy who's getting rich off of all those books, it works. But not for me.
Oh, that's a good. There was a lot in the 4-Hour Work Week, the original book, and I was like, yeah, this works for you only.
Right.
And so it's like, I'm very happy that I think about a third of the book was massively applicable. A third was just for him, and a third was kind of insane in a fun way, but not necessarily a practical way. One downside I found to Google Voice as a note, you cannot send text messages right now to international numbers.
Oh.
And that I found out when I was in Australia. I was trying to respond to people through SMS, and they just don't have the gateways in place. So in our increasingly global world, Google Voice is still very U.S.-centric, and they've got to fix that to make it a real product.
I like Google Voice, but I think that you could use it that way. You could, people. The problem is my phone number leaks out all the time, so I don't answer the phone.
Yeah, no one answers their phone. Who answers
Well,
their
that's
phone?
the point. You don't answer the phone, do you?
Parents probably answer their phone because it might be something to do with their kid.
No, I look at the caller ID. If it's not a number I know, I go, screw you.
Yeah,
I have my phone number very public.
Yeah, because you don't answer it.
No, I do answer it. I'd say I answer it probably 2/3 of the time.
Really?
And people say that they're surprised that I'm willing to put it out there publicly. Maybe I'm not as there's probably 1 or 2 PR agents that call me every day.
Every once in a while I'll answer the phone, and what I get usually is nervous laughter, and they hang up because they know my number and they don't expect me to answer.
They were trying to reach Justin Bieber.
They go ee, and they hang up.
Marshall, when you say you get 1 to 2 PR calls a day, is that from the same PR person?
Over and over and over.
For 3 or 4 days in a row, generally speaking, yeah. And I don't mind it. I don't mind someone putting themselves at the top of my mental inbox, so that
really?
I'll tell them in about 15 seconds. I'll say, I'm not going to write about your client. Goodbye. Problem solved.
Wow.
Or I do write about their client, and I say, thank you. Let's schedule this right now.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
you're a very responsive man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Hold
impressed.
on, my phone's ringing.
Yeah,
right
go get the phone. All right, we're going to take a break. Marshall Kirkpatrick is here. His phone number is 1-800-CALL-MARSHALL. If you'd like to reach him, he writes for Read Write Web, and he loves hearing from PR flacks. No, I don't. I can't imagine you do, but okay. Also here, Xeni Jardin. She's at boingboing.net, and really a great website to read, not just for fun stuff, because there is a ton of fun stuff there, but also for real news about stuff like science.
for your steampunk and your science.
Steampunk and science.
Nice.
Baratunde Thurston is at Baratunde.com. He also is the official web guy for the, something like that, right? For the Onion.
Yeah, Director of Digital, the DOD.
He's the DOD at the ONION.
But you can call me Mayor.
And mayor of all he surveys. His new book is going to be out someday.
Yes.
That's all I can say. He won't let me say any more.
Nope.
Just that. Hey, I want to talk real quickly about audible.com, then we'll move on to topic number 3. This has been fun. This is great. I tell you, I love getting intelligent people on so I can just, shut up, stay out of the way. But I do want to mention audible.com. Audible is how I read, and I love it. I just saw, there's a great movie came out a couple of years ago about Tolstoy's last year of life called The Last Station. It's really great, and it made me say, I'm going to read War and Peace, finally. And then I chickened out, and I said, no, I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to go to audible.com, and I'm going to get War and Peace, and it's like, I don't know how many hours, but I got it, and I'm listening to it, and you know what? It's actually really great. See, Audible is about rediscovering reading in your life. 80,000 books on audible.com now. In fact, there's 2 different versions of War and Peace, unabridged, so you can decide which one you want to read. I'm sure there's some abridged versions as well if you don't have the time. AUDIBLE, audible.com. Now, you can get 2 books right now absolutely free. If you go to audible.com/twit2, you'll be signing up for the Platinum account. That's a subscription to 2 books a month. And, the only real challenge on this is which 2 books. With 80,000 books to choose from, it's tough. There's so many great books. One of the things Audible folks do when they get together is they say, well, what's good? What are you listening to? I love listening to a book. It's like somebody reading to you, and it just brings the book to life. Whether it's War and Peace, I'm reading Peter F. Hamilton's a great sci-fi epic, The Dreaming Void. I just finished a great book that Andy Anako recommended about the history of the Smothers Brothers. It's called Dangerously Funny by David Bianculli. There are so many good books on here. Look, here's what I would suggest. Go to audible.com, browse around. When you're ready to pick 2, then go to audible.com/twit2 and sign up for that gold account. 2 books a month. The first 2 are free. The first month is free, and you can cancel at any time. Those books are yours to keep forever. Plays on any of the Apple devices, the Zune. They've got a great Android app now that I just love that lets you see all of your books and download whatever you want to listen to. Audible.com/twit2. Check out their sci-fi section. They've been recording a lot of great books. Audible.com/twit2. We thank them for their support of This Week in Tech. Let me go back and check our rundown of stories, and some Android stories out there. Playbook is due out soon, and the folks at RIM say the Playbook, which is based on QNX, it is neither iOS nor Android nor even WebOS, will play or will run Android apps. They're going to offer tools for Android app developers to easily port their tools to the Playbook, but they say there'll even be a little emulation layer, because it's all in Java, that will support apps written for Android 2.3. They'll support apps for BlackBerry Java. So this is one way to handle that issue of what apps do you run. I ordered a Playbook. They come out April 19th. Any of you have Zooms or Playbooks or any of those Samsung Galaxy Tabs?
I ended up kind of winning a Galaxy Tab at South by, and I haven't activated the AT&T thing in it because I have too many telecom billing relationships. They're very good at taking your money, and I don't need more cash going to them.
You are so right.
But,
I have like 4 or 5 data accounts now.
They're essentially banks that process your payments in exchange for occasional telecom services, right. Which is works out well for them. But the tab, one of the very positive things I noticed, that size is great. I have the first generation iPad. I love the iPad, but the tab fits inside my coat pocket.
Yep.
And if I'm just going to run out the door and have no bag whatsoever, don't want to hold anything, that makes a big difference. And it's a very readable size. It's more Kindle size, which again, kind of slips inside of a pocket and can run and go. So I think there's a market for something that size, and clearly Apple's not exploiting it. So I hope these, everyone making things that size is a bit more successful in that space.
In fact, Steve Jobs said nobody wants 7-inch tablets. That's crazy.
Well, Steve Jobs says, no one wants anything until Apple makes it. He said, no one wants.
No one wants their 7-inch tablet.
Spin Master.
Yeah. The Playbook is 7 inches too. I played with it and really liked it. It's very speedy. It feels good. But we're going to get a Zoom too. We have a new show all about Android, which debuts. When is your first episode? Tomorrow. All right. What time? 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on live.twit.tv. Eileen Rivera, our producer, and Jason Howell, who produces TNT, will be hosting and producing that show. So we're going to get a Zoom for them and I guess a playbook. So, do you play with any of these, Xeni or Marshall?
I got to a little bit at CTIA, and the idea of a smaller form factor is really growing on me. But for some reason, I always hope that they'll cost less than the iPad does, and I don't think they really do.
I think that that there are $4.99 versions of both, but I don't think they have. I think they're Wi-Fi only, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see somebody compete on price as well. I'd buy more.
Playbook is the same price. It's $4.99 for Wi-Fi. I think the Zoom is a little more expensive. They're both dual processor. I don't know. I'm with you, Baratunde. I think the real problem is this connection, is this connectivity. Now, my old iPad, I have a $30 a month account. My new iPad, I have a $30 a month. I mean, AT&T's just sucking me dry here.
Well, hopefully, what'll happen in this connected world of devices, you'll have a one live broadband connection that's attached to you. Most likely it'll come in the form of your primary mobile phone. Let's call it your mobile.
Wouldn't that be nice? And tether,
device.
everything tethers.
And then everything gets you have a shared identity key among your items, and you've got a similar connection. So you have a primary fixed connection to your home, whether it's wireless or terrestrial, doesn't matter, but it's your home pipe, and that's shared within your home as it is now. And then you have a mobile, primary connection, and everything attached to you or around you that you want to opt in, a friend's phone or a device you're playing with at some kind of new, video gaming facility or at a movie theater. You want to connect your chair and order popcorn. I just made up something right there. You're welcome.
I like
there
that.
You go. Yeah.
You think, Marshall, that's possible? Were they talking about that? No. They're talking about how to extract more money out of Baratunde.
There was some under-celebrated awards granted at CTIA, and one of the award winners was Alcatel-Lucent, who I should disclose as a major read-write web sponsor, but they won an award for a new replacement for cell towers, I believe they are, called a light radio that is, it's just offers crazy mobile connectivity to an entire neighborhood, I believe, in the palm of your hand.
We need that.
Yeah.
We need that. Google says that Honeycomb will not be out soon. They decided this is a shame, not to release the platform's source code to the community. It's open source, but until Google releases the source code, there's not much you can do with it. So far, the Zoom is the only Honeycomb-based tablet.
Leo, I think you're forgetting you can do something very important with it, which is to call it open source.
Yeah. Whether it is or not.
Yeah.
It will be. The source will be.
Hashtag. What more do you want?
Yeah. Come on. So I think iPad's going to have a year before they have to. Apple doesn't have to worry about anybody for a little while. All of this everybody's in disarray. iPad did go on sale worldwide. Was it yesterday or Friday? To long lines all over the world, including London. And the suspicion that there aren't all that many, that they probably will be sold out pretty quickly worldwide. They just can't.
Here in Portland, Leo, I'm told that that there are still people lining up at 3 in the morning to get the limited number of iPads that they sell down at the mall each day.
Is that mass hysteria, or is there really a reason to get in line for an iPad 2?
Well, I know it's the device that I pick up more often than my laptop when I have a choice, and it makes me happy when I do pick it up.
All right.
You know, I remember hearing over the last few weeks, too, here in Los Angeles, people lining up at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning to go to the Apple stores here. I think specifically, I kept hearing these were people who wanted AT&T and not Verizon, and there was less, presumably less stock of the AT&T device.
Really?
Yeah. I don't get it.
I don't get that either. That's weird.
I'm telling you, there's something in the water. It's just amazing to me. And meanwhile, you've got, plentiful supplies of numerous Android tablets, and walk in and buy one.
Well, maybe they should drop the price for
Well, I think there are cheap. In fact, I think that the Galaxy is going to end up being $299. I think some models of that.
That's great.
So I think there are some, and of course there are off brands, Arcos and others. Arcos isn't really an off brand, but Arcos is selling very inexpensive Android tablets. But none of them are on Honeycomb. I guess maybe that's an issue. Apple says Amazon can't call it the App Store. Why are you laughing?
It wouldn't be spring without an Apple lawsuit.
It's an Apple thing. It's the lawyers thing. It's just, come on now. Like, you didn't create apps. Apps have existed before. You didn't create store. You can't take two things.
But app is in our name. We are
Apple without app.
Yes.
It's just silly. I don't know. I want the author of the Bible to sue Apple for using the word apple. Let's just let them have a taste. Yes.
Lawyers got a loy.
Lawyers got a loy. Well, it's interesting because the Apple was initially turned down in its trademark for App Store. They attempted to get it, I think, outside of the U.S. and because it's a descriptive term, you cannot trademark a descriptive term.
Yeah, an iTunes App Store. Apple App Store, those things work.
Right.
Just generic App Store. And it's like, trademarking grocery store, trademarking.
Right.
That you can't, it's just unreasonable. It's just very.
So the argument the Apple attorneys made that ended up getting them the trademark was, well, it was descriptive, but now that Apple's used it so much, it really should be Apple's. We own that.
They wanted to trademark store.
Yeah, they couldn't get store. So I guess Amazon could just walk away. Who cares? It's just a name. But I wonder if Amazon's going to fight this one.
They should for justice.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to fight it, right? I mean, there's.
All right, we're going to talk about the silliest story of the week. What if you were to create a buzzword-compliant iPhone app that was social photography, instant, quick, easy? How much money could you raise? Don't answer that question. We will answer it with an unbelievable number. Actually, we've got two unbelievable numbers coming up. The unbelievable number the record industry is asking for damages from LimeWire. I don't know which is more unbelievable. LimeWire. Okay. Yeah, get ready. I don't know if it's on our rundown. It's not, but believe me,
it is now.
You're going to love this one. We'll talk about it in a moment. But first, I just really quickly want to tell you about backing up with Carbonite. It's how I back up and how I recommend you all back up. When my daughter went to college this year, she brought a laptop with her. And I know the stats on laptops. Hundreds of thousands of laptops are left in airports every year alone. I mean, they get lost all the time. And, of course, hard drives die. Disaster happens. Catastrophe happens. And I know Abby. She is not going to be backing up her laptop. She's going to be throwing it in her backpack, throwing it around. I mean, I know that I'm going to get that call at some point. Dad, my thesis, it's gone. And can you help? And I said, I'm going to be able to say, yeah, no problem. Log into your Carbonite account. It's sitting right there. Carbonite is online backup done right. It's automatic. Anytime you're online, it automatically trickles your data up to the internet. It's encrypted 128-bit SSL. You can even add your own triple DES or blowfish encryption to make sure it's completely private data. It also is available to you even before disaster strikes. You just log into your Carbonite account on any computer, Mac or PC, or they have an Android app, a BlackBerry app, an iPhone app. There's your stuff. It's cloud storage plus backup, and all that for $55 a year. That's 15 cents a day. Unlimited backup, all the data on your internal drive. I have to say it's internal. You can't just plug in a bunch of external drives, have it back them up, then plug in a bunch more. This is reasonable. Unlimited data on your internal drive. So if it's a laptop, your whole laptop is backed up. Easy to use, very straightforward. I do want you to try it free for 2 weeks because it is dependent on your internet connection. Make sure you got enough bandwidth to do this. It doesn't slow you down or the connection down. It's trickling it up. Go to Carbonite.com. Use the offer code TWiT. You get 2 weeks free. If you decide this is for me, and I know you will, Use TWiT again when you check out to purchase a year's worth of Carbonite, 12 months, and you'll get 14 months, 2 extra months for free. You got to back it up to get it back. So do it right, automatically off-site with Carbonite. Carbonite.com, offer code TWiT. So the guy who created Lala.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. You like Lala?
I miss it every day. I have found that RDO is a reasonable replacement.
Yeah, I'm
for
following you on RDO. You're a big Kanye fan.
Yeah, I played Kanye for a while. I'm actually related to Aloe Black and
Yep.
Raphael Sadiq right now.
See, I know that because it's a social. I follow you. I hear your music.
Every time you say you follow me, it has a vague, like, threatening sound to it.
Well, when you go to the playgrounds, I don't follow you. But you know, I'm kidding. I'm not going to.
What Lala had that RDO doesn't was the ability to upload your own library and share that. I definitely miss that because there are things I own that RDO still doesn't have a license for.
But that's a good point. Because RDO is unlimited streaming of but it doesn't have everything.
No one does.
Jillian Welch.
So that was
No Jillian Walsh.
No Rebecca
Jillian
Black.
Welch.
No Rebecca. Friday. Don't get me started. I got that thing in my head. It's the worst earworm ever.
Your producer warned me.
I can't get stopped. It's like I don't know. It's in my mind now.
Do math.
Is that what you do?
Yeah. If you do math, it'll kill an earworm.
Oh.
Do like timetables in your head. Seriously.
I thought you said meth.
Meth. More meth.
Meth will kill a lot of things, but probably not an earworm.
No, in fact, I think meth makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, somebody once told me that if you sing, "My baby takes the morning train," he works. That's such a bad tune that it can't stick in your head, and so it wipes away any earworms.
I think this Friday song might be the next tune that's so bad it'll kill anything else.
Well, it is. It's going to kill it. Anyway, this guy started Lala. Where was I?
Yes, the last
Mr. Nguyen and his very large windfall.
Yeah. Well, and this is interesting. So Lala got sold to Apple, and of course now he's a star because you create a startup and you sell it to Apple for hundreds of millions of dollars. When you next go to venture capitalists, they sit up and take notice. So Bill Nguyen, well, interestingly enough, a few months ago, he purchased Color.com for $350,000, COLOR.com for $350,000. So, and he bought, by the way, COLOUR.com. He bought both spellings. So people thought, Bill's up to something. Well, apparently he was. There's a new application that he has put out, came out this week, called Color. And it's a little weird. I don't know. It's a little strange. When you first sign in, it doesn't really tell you anything about what's going on. It just says, here, give me your name and a picture. And I will just broadcast that to the world somehow. And then when you take pictures now with Color, see, there it is. When you take pictures, doesn't this look a little creepy? It's like IKEA or something. Take photos.
Those figures are very like training for nuclear fallout shelters in the 1950s style.
I feel like this is a little creepy. So it says, take photos together, Leo. This is it. It doesn't really, it's got cryptic things that I don't know what they do. I don't know whose pictures these are. I don't know what any of this is. It's just there, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a clock, but I don't know what that is. And then these are other pictures I took. And if I take another picture now, I'll be very meta. I'll take a picture of the Color icon. So that's really meta. So now that has become, that's a picture on Color. Now, as I understand this, and I'm not really clear at all about how this is, but everybody within 150 feet of me who's running Color will now see the pictures that I took. And we're all in a group. We're in an ad hoc group. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, how is it 41? Is it $41 million amazing?
Maybe phase 2 of the operation might be truly revolutionary, and this is just to seed interest and make people ask questions. Like I tried to use it on a recent trip. There was no one around me, so I was alone. That was boring. And then when I was at a table with other people just testing out the app, we were just taking pictures of each other to then look at the screen of the pictures we had just taken of each other. But it would have just been cheaper to just look at each other's faces.
It is. That's what's weird because you're there. You're taking pictures of something where you are, so you've seen that.
I can imagine maybe if you're on a field trip with the school to the zoo and different, members of your class are taking pictures of different exhibits at the zoo or the museum, and you have this collective memory of your trip where you didn't have to take the pictures, create a Facebook group or an email list or a shared photo album on Flickr or Picasa, upload all these photos, label them and where they were taken. The geography's already there. The photos were put in an ad hoc group right away. There might be something interesting about that. I think the UI is totally not intuitive. And
I don't. You just touch it. You
your
just do stuff.
Confusion was, my confusion as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the clock do? What's the little pretty NBC Peacock looking thing do? I don't know.
So there's been a lot of.
I got so upset about it, I had to just drop off the webcast there. Sorry.
Yes, you hung up on us. Just like, that's it. I give up. No, but there was no, and I don't mind that they got $41 million. It's not my money. Somebody obviously. You do?
It was my money.
Well, I thought was it Dave McClure who said when said what would you do with the $41 million? I'd have 820 startups. It isn't your money, but think of what that money could have done, and I feel bad for all the startups who have legitimately good ideas, who are sitting looking.
Did you guys already talk about in the 30 seconds that I wasn't with you the most hilarious review of all time that's about this app?
We didn't. It's on iTunes, right?
Yeah. So we had this on Boing Boing this morning where somebody, I'll read a little bit of it. Color is a groundbreaking new entry in the new genre of MLPRMLRG, which stands for Massively Multiplayer Real Live Marketing Games. And it just goes on for like 2,000 words and plays on the interview in Business Insider, I think it was, that sort of poo-poos the idea of privacy and lays it out there like it is, that this is a data mining app.
Well, is that really what you think that this is all about?
So the founder said, yeah.
Oh, he even said
Phase two. Phase two.
The chief of product there is the former chief scientist from LinkedIn.
Okay.
And the co-founder, Peter Pham, is formerly of an online bill-paying service called BillShrink and did biz dev at PhotoBucket that sold to Fox for $300 million. So it may not make a lot of sense to us at launch here, but neither, I hate to say this, but neither did Twitter to me when I first saw it.
So you think that this may have some value? Well, obviously somebody does, $41 million worth of value, but it sounds like Sequoia believes it.
Backers of Google and YouTube and so much more. Yeah.
But at the same time, Baratunde, you think that's because there's something evil that's behind the scenes here?
Well, there's always something evil behind the scenes. That's what evil does. It hides behind the scenes, right? So that's part of the thing. But I think slightly more serious and legitimate, there's clearly something else going on. I don't know that it has to be evil, but
there's got to be more here.
That's a big number to put a big bet on something that is obviously foolish. Clearly, it's not obviously foolish to the people who are putting the money up.
You've seen this. You've seen this deck, color.xxx.
I flipped through that. No, it's pretty cool. I want to make an app called White, and you just open it as a white screen.
Colors.
And
people love
you
that
just
stuff.
Contemplate it.
But what else do people love? Sharing mobile social apps. Sharing mobile social apps. Color will do all that, and it's a mobile social app that lets you share your favorite color with your friends and low acquaintances. And now this is a mock presentation with all the main buzzwords: lean, agile, organic, grass-fed.
We were having a fun time on Twitter the other day imagining the headlines that will start popping up in tech blogs and on the Wall Street Journal and the like. There's got to be the inevitable profile of the founders called People of Color.
Yes.
They're just, you start spinning out like color by numbers, which is the financial profile. I want my royalties when they start writing them.
You probably know the guy who did this, Baratunde. He's a New Yorker, right? He's
Oh, I know all the New Yorkers, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's in your town. What's his name?
I make sure to interview all new applicants to the city of New York before they're allowed to take a residence.
He is the mayor.
Yeah. I'll look him up by identification number.
Some of these jokes are certainly funny. My wife was disturbed by how loud I was laughing while looking at this deck in particular. But snark is cheap.
Snark is cheap.
Yeah.
That's good. So you think
apparently
to tear down others?
Yeah. So really, it's just a bunch of us are really jealous that Bill got $41 million.
And that I think we can't see the use case very clearly yet. It's certainly not apparent with such a small user base right now.
Right.
But I can remember when a friend first turned me on to Twitter, and Twitter was a different product than it is now. And I remember thinking, this is totally stupid. I don't get why anyone would use this. And now it's evolved into something different, but sometimes the need evolves around the tool that is available.
I have to say that I think if they'd launched this, obviously they intended to launch it at South by Southwest, and they just missed the deadline. Had they launched it at South by Southwest, it would have been much more interesting, because you got 1,500 people using it, and it'd be full of great, interesting pictures.
I wonder about high school kids too.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we're all people whose favorite type of place to check into on Foursquare probably is airports, and
in our bedrooms.
Yeah, most of my friends, I do have friends in real life that are in my town, but and I love them. That's great. But you know, most of our social lives where it touches technology are not immediately around us.
Well, here's the reason this is of interest, is because there is a big discussion going on of whether we're in a bubble, whether there is massive overvaluation of these ridiculous things just because there's, irrational exuberance over anything on the web.
So that and Groupon.
Yeah. I mean, this is a data point that kind of encourages the thought that maybe we are in a bubble.
I don't know that $41 million at this day and age is, I mean, that's what Henry Blodgett at Business Insider said was, look, for building almost any other kind of business, $41 million isn't that big a raise, in a VC funded sector. And he says there's two kinds of strategies. There's the Dave McClure style lean startups,
right? And
then there's the fat startups where you put and that's a legitimate strategy as well.
I have to say that's a lot of money. What could you possibly need $41 million for?
Evil plans lurking in the shadows.
Well, let me ask you guys: are we in a bubble?
Foosball and the yoga balls that the developers sit on.
Exactly. Are we in a bubble? Is all this stuff overvalued? I mean, come on, look at color. Really, what is the value of that? Come on.
So, I think we're, given the state of the overall economy in the country and around the world.
Yeah, we're in a depression, gang.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't roll in financing startup circles and go to venture capital events, and I don't live in Silicon Valley, so I feel perfectly qualified in making up an opinion on this subject.
Good. It is 420. Go ahead. Just live it up. Yeah.
Saying, we're not in a bubble. I think, I just doubt it. I don't see tons of money. I don't see lots of people getting great, job offers that suddenly might explode later. If it is a bubble, it's a very weird definition of one, where a handful of people, with billions of their own dollars are putting a bit of money into a handful of other people who need money. So if it is a bubble, it's like a tightly prescribed one. There you go.
What do you think, Xeni?
I want some of that sweet 41 million.
Me too. I got your bubble right here.
Got your use case scenario. No, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. I was sort of arguing back and forth with people on Twitter last night. What might happen when the summer music festival season comes around? Stuff like Outside Lands and Coachella,
that's true.
Bonnaroo.
I'm looking at pictures MG Siegler took of a party, and this is fun.
Adrian Chennet Gawker had a funny piece today about how he used color for a few days and saw people around him in the same buildings, be it restaurants or office buildings or his apartment building, saw people having more fun than him, and that was the killer use for this app, is seeing how much more miserable your life is.
These people are having way too much fun. I do agree.
There is something to that. I mean, I think South by Southwest is probably one of the more connected conferences as far as, the multiple people there sharing their own perspectives about what panels they're in or what parties they're at that you are not in, and what the real-time availability of choice that you didn't make, and highlighting the position you're not in, is a relatively new phenomenon in world history. You might hear later, like a week later, you might read somebody's report about this event that you also were at, like, I didn't even know Big Boy was there.
Right.
Now you know that he's there,
and you're not
giving out free champagne, and you're not with them backstage hanging out. And so it does heighten. Part of our economy is a big chunk of it, probably all of it's built on desire rather than need, and so this ups the gap, and your knowledge of the gap between you and the Joneses next door. Right? The Joneses are all up in your face, showing you real time how good they have it,
That's
or how
true.
differently they have it. It doesn't necessarily have to be good, but with the different perspectives
I'm
are right
just
there.
pleasantly pleased that so far it's not full of ween. Unlike Chat Roulette, which was just a big ween fest.
Yeah.
Oh, Ween.
I was trying to use a family-friendly name for
Ween. I get it. So apparently,
How long until it turns into a big schlong?
a Ween fest, yeah.
Schlong. We'll use the word schlong.
Well, in my case, short.
So Leo,
yeah.
I did want to interject one last thought on,
thank you.
on color. As we discussed those kinds of use cases, I mean, another way to put it would be if they can nail an effective user experience for the act of empathy, of seeing the same phenomenon from another person's vantage point, then that sounds like existential disruption to me.
Whoa!
Marshall is floating the big terms, y'all. We have living census.
I thought schlong was a big word. All right.
I'm impressed. I'm very happy to be on here with Marshall.
Wow, no kidding. According to Ben Parr writing at Mashable, color is going to fix the loneliness problem.
Oh, sure.
The app.
Zip my lip.
You're not going to say anything, huh?
No.
But you said enough. You said enough. He says he talked to Bill, and in order to get value out of color, someone has to be nearby using the app. Otherwise, Bill Nguyen, the creator, it's not going to make any sense. So the next edition, you won't. Oh, this will make it better. Get this. You won't be able to use the app if nobody's nearby.
Well, okay.
And color will be changing the distance required for somebody to be considered nearby. I don't know if that. Currently, it's 150 feet. They're going to start. They've really overthought this. This is what happens when you get $41 million. We're going to start adjusting the range based on the density of the city you're in.
Foursquare does stuff like that. Facebook does stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, I think that not as extensively or as ambitiously as these folks do, but, you know, for Google, for Facebook, $41 million split between these three co-founders or these three top people, you know, is a signing bonus.
Wow.
Right? I mean, look at pro athletes and the revenue they help generate and the compensation they receive. And if Dave Moore and Path got offered $100 million from Google before like a week after the silly photo sharing app launched.
Did they really? They got a $100 million offer from Google?
And they turned it down.
That's crazy. And they turned it down?
Yep. But it was a talent grab.
Right. They wanted Dave.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Path doesn't make any sense. It's an Instagram, but you can only have 50 friends. It doesn't make any sense. Anybody buy a Nintendo 3DS? Just out of curiosity.
No, but I did see I grabbed a screenshot. Should have sent it over to you on Gizmodo. They had an article titled something really strongly worded like handheld 3D devices make no sense. Like the idea, and the premise was the idea of 3D is supposed to be immersive, it's supposed to be surrounded by it. So having 3D in your hand is just foolishness. And then right below that is like this post sponsored by Nintendo 3DS.
Whoopsies.
Available now. It's for you.
Actually,
Yeah,
I've played with it. It's 3D. It's kind of cool to see something popping out at you, even though it's a little tiny screen in your hand. It's almost like having, Princess Leia in your hand.
Or remember that
help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, and she's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like
the little holograms. Like there was a Star Trek Next Generation, I think, episode where they had this very addictive game. We had to try to get like a donut and a hoop, and you derive some pleasure from the act. So it was.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
It happened in front of your face, and everybody got addicted.
No, that was Saturday Night Live. That was the Coneheads. Wasn't that?
No, I'm pretty sure there was
Star
a
Trek 2?
Star Trek TNG. Where's my chat room people on this? Yeah, yes, Baratunde says Punter Joe, vindicated by Punter Joe.
Well, anybody named Punter Joe would know.
Dean Takahashi over at VentureBeat is one of the games reporters that I pay most attention to, and he wrote about it in great detail and said that it was fun, it was cool, but it was kind of pricey, and there was a 30-minute barf limit.
Yeah, that's part of the issue.
More than 30 minutes.
But there is a little slider that you can turn the effect down if you're starting to feel a little
or
nauseous.
less
likelihood of tossing your cookies. Let's see.
I have a question. You know how when you go out on the water, or if you do like a zero gravity flight, there's different drugs that you can take that will help reduce the likelihood of motion sickness?
Yes.
I wonder, does that work for the sort of motion sickness induced by 3D gaming experiences? That would be an interesting thing to try.
I bet it does.
Like, so scope dex, scopolamine, and dexedrine, that's the thing that the astronauts use, or I'm blanking out. What's the name of the drug that you use for when you're on the water?
Dramamine.
Dramamine, thanks. It's the one that makes you sort of drowsy.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would work for, say, people who are particularly sensitive to 3D movies.
Well, the issue, the nausea comes from the fact that your brain's confused because your body is, moving one way and you're not. And I think that's where the nausea.
Your inner ear is arguing with your brain,
Exactly.
and it's like it's trying to tell you, alert, alert, danger.
Yeah, we're
the
floating.
Mushroom.
Something's
You've
wrong.
eaten the magic mushroom. You should throw up.
Right. Exactly.
I would take a tablet if it helped me play with my iPad more hours in the day, right?
A tablet for your tablet.
Yeah, watched the movie Limitless last night. By the way, really good movie. I thought.
Really?
I just got to tell you, if you play with your iPad for more than 4 hours, you should see your doctor.
I missed some of this discussion. The chat room vindicated me. The episode is called The Game. It's Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, yeah. Wesley wouldn't
Wesley
play.
Crusher, Ashley Judd guest stars. So take that.
We should have had Will Wheaton on this episode, and then we could have cut right through that. Social network LinkedIn passes 100 million members. It's not 600 million, but it's still pretty good. It's funny, in the wake of Facebook, 100 million, it's like, oh yeah, 100 million, big deal.
Well, for a site, I don't know. For me, LinkedIn is very rarely used. I think yesterday someone described it as that network you go to when you're about to lose your job.
Right. That's what it's for, right?
Right.
Since
So
we're
it's
all
an
working.
occasional thing, but it's not you don't need it every day.
Right.
Your friends aren't posting baby pictures every day. You're not getting, at least most people I know, I should say, and I doubt most of their users are daily session timers. They got some discussion boards in there that if you're in a particular industry that might be quite useful. If you're looking to recruit people, it can be very helpful to try to find talent or identify someone at a company that you're trying to reach out to. But I guess good for them. 100 million people occasionally logging in. That's great.
Baratunde, can I ask you publicly in that case to please separate your Twitter and LinkedIn accounts? Because every time I go over to LinkedIn, it's full of tweets from you.
Oh,
I will happily do that. Yeah, no,
that's a good point.
I have so abandoned my LinkedIn presence, I didn't even think about the other side of it. And
I read every one of your tweets religiously on Twitter.
You don't need them on LinkedIn again. No, it's funny because when I first, I can't remember, was using some social network that linked into LinkedIn, and all of a sudden I saw this traffic, and I thought, wow, people are using LinkedIn, but really mostly they're doing what Baratunde does, which is they're pumping their Twitter into it. Yeah. Bad news for MySpace, man. In January of 2011, according to ComScore, 73 million uniques. February, 63 million uniques. Loss of 14%, 10 million users in 1 month.
So they
you're
all
saying
left MySpace and went to LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. MySpace is, yes, isn't that an insightful, MySpace is losing users.
That is the sound of the world's tiniest violin playing. Can you hear it?
They've lost half their staff. I wonder if they're going to be able to sell it or if they're just going to have to shutter it. At this rate, there won't be anybody there in September. There'll be nobody here. Then we could take it over.
Guys, I just got some breaking news that Ashley Judd's husband won an IndyCar race. And that happened moments after we mentioned her name, so I think we can take credit for that.
Would you tweet that? We can see it on your LinkedIn that way.
Yeah, it came in from SportsCenter. I'll just I'll retweet them.
So in a couple of days, Larry Page becomes the CEO of Google. Eric Schmidt, perhaps the rumor says, will take a government job as Secretary of Commerce in the Obama administration. Which would make sense. That would explain a little bit. Larry says he's going to bring Google back to its roots. Talking to Stephen Levy and Levy's.
So that would be just like a search engine with a simple input box floating in the middle of the
Please,
page.
I beg of you. Marshall, you're following like the Google circles or whatever they're calling this stuff. They're testing music, Google Music internally. We were told that they would have launched all of these services by last year. Is Google still even looking at a Facebook killer, a music service? Any of these things?
Oh, I'm sure there's so many people that work over there, and yeah, I certainly have reason to believe it. I talked to enough people that have told me, despite Google's vehement denials, that there is social networking based on personas, on contextual integrity of communication. You know, one message goes to your message from church doesn't get rebroadcast to your friends from the bar, etc. That sort of thing. But I expected to see it a couple weeks ago too, and it's not out yet. So
I think they have to be a little bit frozen in place by what we talked about earlier. This privacy fears. People are scared of Google, and I think anything that they do is they kind of got slapped around over buzz. Google Wave was just horrible. I think they're a little maybe gun shy.
Well, and they need to ready the ramp for the brain implant whenever that comes out, right?
Yeah,
so
because they want to predict what you're doing before you even know. Let's see. Oh, last story. OMG, LOL has entered the OED.
WTF, guys?
That too.
WTF.
I think this is actually is a non-story. It's not. I mean, OED is supposed to include every word that's used commonly in the English language, and so they've actually had some other words before. BFF, FYI, TMI, LOL, and OMG. OED says these are noteworthy initialisms. Initialism.
I didn't even know that was a word. Did they officially add initialism?
I think initialism is a new word.
Where's the press release for that?
Yeah, they're strongly associated with the language of electronic communications. Actually, I thought it was kind of interesting.
Is there any kind of communication other than electronic?
Not anymore. That was kind of interesting because they trace, OMG's traced back to 1911, its first use. FYI has been used in business since the 30s. So many of these are not that old.
OMG has been used since when?
1911. No, I'm sorry, 1917.
The roots of the phrase.
Oh, okay, no, 1917. That makes a little more sense. I'm like 1911.
Yeah,
no way.
No
way.
No, not that far back. But
Yeah,
the Great War was coming, and people. Yeah, researchers at the OED discovered OMG appeared in a personal letter from 1917. LOL had a previous life in the 1960s. Remember, it stood for, you don't remember, you guys are all kids. It stood for little old lady.
I do remember
that's
that.
different.
That's different.
You know, I don't see any of this on the Wikipedia entry.
Well, it can't be real then. 5 years for Twitter. Happy birthday. Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner are 80 this week.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said. WTF?
That's
LOL.
Okay.
No, it's hard to believe they're that old, but in fact they are.
Can we go back to the OMG thing really quickly?
Yes.
They said they found usage in a letter. So the OED people go through people's personal correspondence?
They do, in fact. You got to read. There's a great book, The Professor and the Madmen.
Okay.
In which talks about the roots of the OED, and they used all kinds of. It doesn't have to be printed in a book to become part of the language, and so they use all kinds of sources. And they were at the time when they were doing this I guess it was the 30s. They were cutting up. You know, they'd take a book and they'd cut it up, and they had slips. They had this special thing built. I mean, it's an amazing story. It's a great book. Highly recommend it.
So now they can just read the databases that the government keeps of all of our tweets.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to have my Facebook messages get into who knows whose hands.
Exactly.
The OED.
I better not
In a
show up
private
in my
message,
cereal, that's
Mark
all I'm
Kirkpatrick.
Oh, dear. Xeni Jardin is at boingboing.net. Please follow her on, what's your Twitter handle, Xeni?
Xeni Jardin.
Oh, it's easy. XENIJARDIN. And you tweet good stuff, links and so forth, too, which I like. I like it when people tweet links because then it populates my Flipboard.
Excellent.
Or Flipbook, whatever that is, on my iPad.
In your cereal box.
In my cereal box. That's what we want. You know, how long before an iPad's so cheap you could put it in the back of a cereal box? I grew up reading cereal boxes. It's just kind of the next thing. Makes perfect sense to me. Marshall Kirkpatrick writes for Read Write Web, readwriteweb.com. It's so nice to have you again, Marshall. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's been a great conversation with all of us.
It sure has. It's nice when we get
a bunch of
smart people together. I'll exclude myself from that conversation, but not Baratunde Thurston, who is brilliant, as always. He's the mayor of all he surveys at baratunde.com.
Yeah, Baratunde on Twitter. And I just thank you for putting me on this episode. Xeni, you're a hero. You're awesome. It's actually so great to be here. Marshall and I met many years ago out in Seattle at a conference, and I have loved his work and what Read Write Web does since then. So this is actually like dining with heroes or something like that. But great. And Leo, you're cool. So that's thank you very, very, very much, everybody.
That's all. Just cool.
No, you're. I mean, you have digital things and stuff. No, Leo, obviously you're great.
No, it's okay. You don't have to say that.
Yeah. I'll see you guys on Color.
See you on Color, baby. Don't forget, we had a great photo walk, by the way, yesterday. I understand mostly Lisa did a great job. We're going to have a video from that on Mostly Photo, which is now Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time at live.twit.tv. That took the place of Net at Night, which has moved to Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, are they calling it the Social Hour? I think they are. The Social Hour. So that's a new time and a kind of a redesigned show to cover social media on live.twit.tv. I thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Another Twit
This
in the can.
amazing.
Thank you, everybody. And then the music.
All of that.
And this is where we get our glow sticks out and we dance, right? That's what
Eileen and I think of it as cooking. It's like a recipe.
I was just going to make a cooking analogy.
Yeah, it's a little pinch of that. And
or it's like jazz.
Yes. So this is a good example. This show we started with Marshall, and so Eileen and I think we'll think on Thursday. We'll kind of brainstorm. Well, who do we want? And then I think she heard from Baratunde, and we went yes. And then Xeni, and it was like oh. It was like perfect.
I'm happy that this time there was no earthquake during the.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
By the way, someone on the chat room just reminded us we never did the LimeWire story.
Oh crap!
Teased it.
Well, let me do the LimeWire story. I can't believe I left it out. Did you read this story? So the music industry wants punitive damages on LimeWire. Remember, LimeWire they already put them out of business. It was the music sharing, it was another peer-to-peer sharing service. $75 trillion.
So when you say that number, I think you're required to put your pinky at the corner of your mouth.
Trillion.
There you go. That's much better.
Trillion.
Yeah.
13 record companies, 75 trillion.
But I got to ask this question. We're not a part of some kind of hoax situation here, right? This is not a piece of satire.
No.
Like this is
not
really
The
happening?
Onion. Law, I don't know,
for real.
unless law.com, maybe law.com law.com is like the onion of law, but I don't think so.
Federal judge. Wow. Okay.
Kimba Wood, she said it's absurd.
So, and what's the language of the claim here? They say LimeWire owes it trillions of dollars in damages for enabling the illegal distribution of 11,000 copyrighted songs.
So they
you know
multiply.
What else enables distribution? Electricity. Why aren't they suing the power companies?
Sue the power companies, baby.
Right. Food, which powers people, so they should sue farmers. What's left of them. What do you call it? Metal, right? Because you need that to create the computers and the devices that downloaded this. And what's the other thing? Souls, because it took people to actually do this. This is ridiculous. How do you...
Well, for what it's worth, I don't know that the people behind LimeWire were necessarily the most down-to-earth, responsible, reasonable people in the world either.
Doesn't even matter.
Maybe we can all, chuckle a little bit. Yeah, at that $75 trillion.
That's
I should point out that Corey actually had an interesting item on Boing Boing the other day on our blog, pointing to Alex Wexelblatt at CopyFight, who sort of picked apart this story that P2P sharing dropped 30% after LimeWire shut down. But in fact, the drop began a couple of years ago. LimeWire only shut down 3 months ago. So there's this sort of spin doctoring going on about how much of a positive effect this had.
I mean, the other thing is that the money comes from pure math because there were 11,000 recordings and you get a certain amount per recording. So you really have to blame you have to blame legislators who provided for such ridiculous penalties for this stuff.
And then Torrent Freak wrote, if it's true that music piracy dropped 30%, then why hasn't there been a rise in music sales? And if there wasn't one,
that's a good
as Corey
point.
points out, then why wasn't, then isn't the music industry wrong that piracy is the cause of its financial crash?
That's a good point, too. Absolutely.
So now there's subscription streaming services, right?
Yeah.
At least three of us here use Rdio.
Right.
Xeni, what do you do for music discovery and listening?
Can't say it because it's not necessarily legal all the time.
It's called BitTorrent, baby.
It's called, guys.
Sorry to
she's still using LimeWire.
Hey, if you figured out, my kids used to use LimeWire, and it's like, it wasn't so much the legality of it, because I give them an allowance to buy music on iTunes, and I said, just buy the music because we want to support the artists, and they would. But I was more worried about malware and stuff than anything else.
So someone in the chat room asked what the size of the national debt is, and according to the U.S. National Debt Clock website, which I cannot vouch for, I'm just reading, it is $14.2 trillion.
So there you go. You'd wipe out the national debt 4 times over.
8 times over. Yeah. So maybe that's why the recording industry doesn't want this money for itself. It's going to collect these damages and then pay down the debt, guys.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the RAA is planning.
It's all about limit. And then there's a similar story from, I think it was the Belgian record industry, which, they go around, ask at BMI if people do this in the U.S. They'll go around into stores, convenience stores. If they hear music playing on a radio, they'll say, oh, no, you can't do that. That has to be licensed to give us money or buy music, but you cannot just turn the radio on in a workplace, right? Because you're using free music and to make music in your workplace. Yeah. So apparently I think it was the Belgian music industry was going around, and they went to truck drivers. They said, well, you're working. You can't. You have to pay a license fee for the music you listen to on the radio in your cab, your truck cab.
No, you're kidding about that part.
No.
Right? No, I mean, no. That's clearly in the list of examples of what would happen in a world where absurdist people, ran the legislative.
It's an article from The Onion, except it's not.
Oh, okay. So when do we take up digital arms?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, the good news about this is when you ask for $75 trillion, all
judge laughs at you.
People just laugh. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the Belgian part. I have to find. It's some European nation. Chat room probably could tell me where this happened.
Belgium is there's something to be said for Belgium.
It could be Belgium, huh?
The State Department puts out a list of like the 100 biggest threats internationally to the United States every year, and
Belgium.
Belgians, in particular, are higher than the Communist Party of the United States is now.
I fear Belgians.
Well, they have. Isn't that where the? No, it's not where the International Criminal Court is. But
It's Belgium. It is the Belgian Music Royalty Collection Agency, SABAM, SABAM.
That's a great name. Maybe you have to say it
SABAM! SABAM! This time they claimed money. This is from a Torrent Freak, so you know it's true. They claimed money from truck drivers because they're in a workplace.
That's... Okay, I don't know how to not scream. I'm fighting.
And then the Belgian Parliament, Maggie de Block, member of the Belgian Parliament, in response to the claim says, that's utter nonsense. The truck drivers don't need the radio so much for playing music, but for their safety. It is illogical that they should pay for it.
Is it Ariana Huffington?
No, it's Flemish. Many people confuse the Flemish accent with Ariana's accent, which is just undefinable Eurotrash accent. I shouldn't say the word Eurotrash. That's not nice. Anyway, I don't know. No one knows yet whether truck drivers will have to pay SABAM. Well, golly!
I think they should change their demands. Like, don't ask for money. Make it required that when you say their name, you have to say SABAM.
SABAM!
That would do so much more to improve their image.
Give me your money. SABAM!
Right. I'm sorry. I've been asked not to say Euro trash, but call it Euro garbage instead. Thank you. I'm sorry.
The trash is very offended by being called.
Wait, the chat room. There's people in the chat room said, well, if Leo says that, he should get kicked out of the chat room. Yes, I should. I said I made a 420 joke too. I should be banned.
Oh, you're rubbish. That's
I
what
am
they're saying
rubbish.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Banned.
Sabam!
So that was the LimeWire story, right? Is there any other crazy angle?
That's the story. Thank you for reminding me, because 75 trillion is amazing.
My goodness. Well, thank you, chat room, for reminding me to remind Leo. It's a partnership, guys. We work together. It's a cooperative.
Isn't that what Kanye says? It's a partnership.
It's a partnership.